Hi guys, welcome to the Pimax 8KX review. Okay, you're probably wondering, hey James, this is the 8KX review. Why the fuck are you wearing your Oculus? Or your Quest 2, since it's now a Meta Quest 2. But anyway, so you can have a fucking chuckle at this. Okay, Quest 2. Look at the fucking size of this thing. Look at this thing. I'm in awe of the size of this lad. This is an absolute unit. It's ridiculous how big this is. This is a crazy headset, guys. This is a crazy headset in every possible way. Just see what I mean? It's huge. It's comically huge. This is comically huge. This is so big. Yeah. I, It's hard not to look ridiculous wearing this thing. I mean, I think I look cool when I'm wearing it, but I'm delusional. Actually, I love the shit out of this headset. But let me tell you guys, wow, is it weird? It's just crazy. This is crazy. It's a crazy headset. Everything about it is crazy. For starters, despite its comical size, it's actually really not that much heavier than the Index. This is 850 grams versus 809. It's a little heavier, but not much. The comfort options actually, I would say, are very comparable. And look, they don't have those wings coming out for the cables to get snagged on. Nice design. This is the KDMAS audio. And yeah, I'll go into a bit more about that. This looks wobbly and makes you think, oh, that's cheap. But no, actually, that's hinged. That is legitimately hinged to do this on purpose so it doesn't get stiff or overly broken as you're moving around. That's interesting. I wouldn't say it was too big a concern, but yeah, it's not wobbling because it's cheap plastic. It's wobbling because that's actually hinged and meant to do that. That's interesting. Really comfortable, actually. And unlike the other two headsets, there's no light leak for me. I put this in and all I see is glorious VR. And it is glorious in this thing. It is glorious. It is absolutely beautiful in this headset. The beautiful sharp graphics. The blacks are better than the Index or the Quest 2. It's 4K per eye, so it looks good. And it's proper 4K. The colors are great. Your field of view. Okay, I'm going to put this down. But oh yeah, I'll just show you some quick things. There's volume buttons right there, an on-off button you don't really need. There's your jog wheel right there. You can There it is to adjust your IPD mechanically. I'll go into a little bit more on IPD stuff later since it's really important at this headset. Facial interface foam is really good. You have two of them, a thin one and a thick one. I'm using the thick one, but I'm going to go into a little bit more on that. This is comfortable. I would say this is as comfortable as an Index, despite being a little heavier. And yeah, I'm going to put this down. Now, when you're looking at its huge bulk, you're probably thinking to yourself, is that going to stay in place? Actually, it does, and better than probably the other headsets. You'd think with that, look at that huge, ridiculous visor, that's going to move around with you. It doesn't. Um, it secures really good on the back against your front. It covers your forehead, which the other ones don't really. They just have a little strap there. This one actually goes against your forehead. It just secures in place better than the other headsets, and it has to because of its wacky design. For comfort, I actually quite like this headset. Bearing in mind though, just like with the Index, in a long enough gaming session, I could see its weight getting to you. And it's a little bit heavier than the Index, right? It's a little bit heavier even than the heavy Index. So you got to take that into account. But it's not much heavier, and the comfort is at least as good. The only real complaint I have with it in terms of its comfort is that your only options for the distance between your eyes and the lenses is the same options you have for the Quest 2, which aren't good enough. because there's no way to manually adjust that distance. And in that headset, it kind of actually needs that because it's very bitchy about your IPD and distance to the lenses. And I gotta tell you, if you're wondering, hey, did you change your glasses? Why did you change your glasses? You usually wear these nice frameless ones. Because these ones got scratched by that fucking headset. And that's especially annoying because these just came back from the optometrist with new lenses and they're already fucking scratched. So, there you go. These glasses, for whatever reason, look a bit bigger, but they actually sit a bit farther back. And therefore, if I'm using my Pimax, I gotta use these glasses. Also, I actually kind of needed a little bit more space just because of my glasses. Because those lenses actually stick out a fair amount towards you on the Pimax. So the 15 millimeter pad actually wasn't enough and I needed to space it out a few more millimeters, which I sort of rigged something up and it's okay. They really needed to actually include a third facial foam that added a few more millimeters. They actually did for glasses wearers because they're obviously have proven that glasses wearers are in severe danger of scratching their lenses of both the Pimax and the actual glasses. A serious issue. But everything about this headset's a little wacky. That's just the first thing about it. I know you're thinking, do you like this headset? I love it. But it's crazy. It's crazy top to bottom. It's nothing but crazy. This is a crazy headset. Just everything's crazy about it. The graphics, the FOV, it's crazy. Now, there's so much to cover about this fucking headset. You've seen its obscene size, which actually feels okay when you're wearing it though. Like I said, it doesn't move around, it doesn't shift on you. It's pretty comfortable. Despite the weight, it's well balanced and comfortable to wear. It will probably get it can get a little warm though. I love the fact that there's no light leak, which is huge in my opinion for immersion. Unquestionably, I cannot imagine a headset that has better immersion than this right now. Certainly nothing that's out. The fact that there's no light leak, that field of view is amazing. The beautiful crisp graphics from it. Yes. Yes to all that. It uses base station tracking, so if I already owned an Index, obviously, so I just had to buy the Pimax. Well, and the cable. We'll talk about that in a sec. Because obviously it's a wired system, and therefore there's a fucking cable. At least until the 12K reality comes out. So if you already have like base stations and stuff, then I almost feel like this is, yeah, it's a lot better deal. If you have to get the base stations and your controllers, which you can also use Vive controllers or base station 1.0s, don't use the Index ones. Yeah, don't use Vive controllers. Get the Index, the SteamVR 2.0s and the Index controllers. You're in a really good place. The fact that I love those controllers and get to use them with my Pimax, and I didn't have to tweak the grip settings for all my games is a big deal. I like that. If you're new though, all those things I said about the Index controllers will apply lock, stock, and barrel to the same thing with the Pimax. So a thing with the Pimax is your out-of-box experience is absolute shit. It is not good. As you can see, I scratched glasses. You put it on, you're not treated to glorious things. You're gonna have to fuck with the IPD and it's jarringly wrong. If your IPD is a little off on the other ones, it's an irritant, but it's not as, you I don't flick, swap or whatever, right? This is really weird looking. And you fix it and you get it right, and it can do a decent range. I'm at the very bottom range myself. I have a 60 IPD, quite narrow. And that's actually fine with this headset though. And on top of that, you can do really fine tweaking in software. So it has software and hardware IPD settings in a pretty good range. If you have a very, very narrow IPD, less than 60, this might not be a headset for you though. Maybe you can fuck around with the facial interface, distance it up a bit, but the IPD settings are critical on this headset. They must be correct. And they're not necessarily what your like what the optometrist might say. That's where you start and then tweak around from there until it looks perfect. Once you get that set up, you're probably pretty good. If you're seeing the double vision, that means your foam setting is wrong. You have to use the thinner foam or the thicker foam or vice versa. You have to do that, otherwise it's going to look fucked up. If it looks fucked up for you, that's what it is. All right? I wish they gave us a bit more options for that foam. That's not great. Or just had a distance wheel like the Index does. That would have been the correct solution. Not to have like a glasses spacer foam thickness with just two options is kind of a letdown for a unit at this price, which is hideously expensive. If you have to get the Pimax AKX and then the base stations and then the controllers, you're forking out some serious money for this fucker. But it's probably worth it. Probably. Since I already had them, it's unquestionably worth it. But take that into account. This is an extreme high-end headset. And it's bitchy and fussy. So your out-of-the-box experience will not be great. First thing, you install this amazing tool, Pimax. Pitool. Pitool is awesome. It does so many cool things that you actually need to do with this fucking headset. With the Quest 2 or the Index, you put it on, you maybe tweak your IPD, just tick, 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 quick, easy, no problem. And then you're playing games and it's fucking awesome. Out of the box, great. I mean, of course, with the Index, you'd also have to set up your base stations and so forth, right? It's not the end of the world. You've just begun with the Pimax, though. You've set up your base stations, you got your controllers. Now it's time to begin the real setup. So you did your IPD, you actually get that sorted out. You got the distance right, you're using the right facial interface. Things are looking crisp and clear. If they're not, you're doing something wrong still. Okay, you can get this clear, but you may have to even be a bit creative in regards to that facial interface foam. Okay, there's a lot of options out there. You shouldn't need to do that, but the fact is sometimes you do with these headsets. Just the way the lenses are very picky. That's the thing with this headset. Bitchy. And you must dial it in precisely. Okay? However, once you do, you are treated to a feast of amazing graphics. The other two headsets look gross in comparison to this beauty. And the field of view is out of this world. Now, there's the elephant in the room with this headset, though. Okay? And that is the distortion. Unfortunately, this is going to be just up to the individual. I hear a lot of people complain they cannot stand the distortion. It meant nothing to me. I put them on, I noted its presence, and then my brain just tuned it out instantly. I have zero problems with the distortion. It's there, it just doesn't affect me in any way. I don't notice it, really, once I'm playing a game. My brain just instantly adapted to that distortion on the edges. It's fine. But that's me. And that varies a lot per user. And there's no real way you can emulate it. Like, I have no idea of knowing if this would bother you or not. There are options you can do to fix that, sort of, by cutting off more of your FOV, though. But you're still going to be getting a lot of FOV out of this thing. Not to mention 4K per eye, right? So, yeah. The audio quality, it's good. I have the KD-MAS earphones, as I said. I think it's very good. I think it's actually competitive with the Index. I'd say they're very loud, potentially. You can make these quite loud if you want. That's kind of neat, although I run it at like 50% and it's plenty loud. I'd say the audio is good. I don't like the physical setup of the speakers as much as I do on the Index, even though I'm happy they got rid of those little ears that get caught on things. It's got like a little cups that lightly touch your ears, just lightly, mind you. Just enough that they do sort of block out some outside sound a little bit and focus the audio on you. But I think I prefer the off ear a little bit more, but that's not a big deal, and it's also super preference. Either way, I find the audio quite adequate. It's good. It's better than adequate. It's good. This is good audio. Things sound good and bassy on this thing. Firing like a machine gun and hot dog is a lot of fun at this. I guess it's all going to be a matter of whether you can put up with that distortion, because while there's options, maybe there isn't. If you are seeing ghosting and double vision, you're doing it wrong. You're using the wrong facial interface, foam, or you need to do something to thicken it, probably. So there's that. But that is going to be the issue with. As long as that's just, if you're doing it wrong, then you're doing the wrong facial interface. That's all I can fucking tell you. Just try the other one. And then again, you may have to sort of rig something up on your own potentially in terms of the facial interface, but that should not be a common thing for most people. This is not glasses friendly, unfortunately, so as I said, I scratched my new glasses with these fucking things. That's a real bummer. I just got those. But that's life, isn't it? That's life. It's disappointing and it's challenging and it just never fucking ends. But hey, there you go. Pitool is where the magic happens. So once you've all set once you're ready to go, here's where things become bitchy. I cannot believe that this is a classic example of what the fuck were they thinking? What the fuck were they thinking? You plug it in the first time, Pitool updates the firmware, and it doesn't fucking work. Yes, as of this date, you plug in your brand new Pimax, and it fucks up the headset. The 90 Hz mode, which it defaults to, will go blink, blink, blink. It'll constantly turn off and on. It'll flash white, and then it'll go dark. Just shut off the display and then turn it back on. And like, is it broken? I thought it was fucking broken. It's not. To get to fixed firmware, I had to go on Reddit, and some guy sent me a link to a firmware off of Google fucking Drive, and I had to install that shit. What the fuck is this? Random internet firmware on my extremely expensive brand new headset? Yup. That's what you're supposed to do. What? But then when I did do that, and then it started acting weird and glitchy, and it was crashing, and then setting it to the upscaling mode, which I'll go into later, caused it to just fuck up and not boot. And then those problems just magically went away. I didn't change anything. It was just glitchy for like 20 minutes, and then I don't know. Now it works perfect. But what kind of fucking starting experience is that? What were they thinking? Ship the right firmware. I don't know. Okay, actually, before I go into the huge chaos of Pitool, briefly mention the cable. It comes with this 4.5 meter cable, which is really too short. And that cable is nearly as shitty as the index one. Not off to a good start. However, I was prepared for that shit, and I ordered mine with a 6 meter fiber optic cable. And this is actually true. You know, I had my index just by me for the first review. My index cable touched the Pimax cable and instantly somehow became tangled into it. It did. How? I don't know. It just instantly tangled up in this. I fucking hate that index cable so much. They're using some kind of like earbud technology where they just like turns into a Gordian knot. It's somehow Gordian knot. It just touched this and then just wrapped around it some fucking how. That fucking index cable, I cannot tell you how much I hate it. And the stock one, unlike the index one, which is like 5 miles long, is way too short. 4.5 meters, no. 6 is okay. 6 is good enough. 6 is fine. 4.5, no, you'll... if you're just doing seated, it won't matter, but I'm sure that cable still will suck. However, the fiber optic cable, which will cost you some extra bones, but get it. Just get it. Get the fiber optic cable, because it is miles better. It isn't a little bit better. It's fabulously better. It's so much lighter. It's made out of this nice. It's good. It's light. It's flexible. It's longer. Definitely get the 6 meter cable. That fiber optic cable is leagues better. And I guess technically it uses one less USB. I don't know why that the fiber optic cable would work with one USB, but the regular cable requires 2? But whatever. Because the first thing you should do is take off that shitty 4.5 meter index clone cable and fucking just put it somewhere in storage. Don't throw it out, but put it in storage. As far as cable systems go, this cable is light and thin and about as least annoying as a cable could possibly be. It's going to cost you an extra bunch of money. It's on sale right now. Don't even just get it. Just pay for it. Just accept it as necessary. It is. And it's a really nice cable. As far as these headset VR cables go, which are all awful, which is why Airlink is so awesome. This is really good. This is top-notch cable. Yeah. It's light enough, it is so much less aggravating to put up with than the index cable. It's a serious improvement. Just pay for the cable. Okay, don't get me wrong, it's still annoying because it's a cable. There's no way a cable is not hanging off your fucking head is not going to be aggravating. Like, there's just no way. But this is much less aggravating, especially with a nice pulley system. Okay, that's Pimax, dude, Pitool. Oh, Pitool. the, the thing about this headset is it is a niche headset just based on its cost alone. And it's really high FOV and it's really high dual 4K displays. There's a lot of tweaking you're going to have to do, even if you've got a 3090. With a 3070, definitely. However, Pimax has provided you with all the tweaking you could possibly need in this wacky tool. There's settings in here that I would never even imagine changing. Why are they there? Let's have a look. You have to sort of see this shit. Okay. So I shipped it over to the side of it so you can see this. Oh god. It's so weird. Like, first off, it's very Chinese. This will tell you this part's perfectly fine. You know, it's fine. It's fine. There's nothing unusual. You know, your room set up. You can reboot the HM, like you can reboot it, which you, if you're using like an index, you're like, well, why would I reboot? How? You know, but this thing you do. And there's service. I don't even know what that means necessarily to restart Pitool because it uses Pitool to sort of interface with things. You run this all through Pitool. Sort of like if using a Quest 2, you run it all through the Oculus app. Sort of same thing here. These would be like your settings. You know, it shows right now it's tracked by the base stations. Trackers, if you have them. I don't. I'm going to be using Slime VR trackers when I get them. And then the controllers, it's showing, you know, some random generic controller. But this is meant to really be used at the index controllers, which is awesome. Let's go into this. Like, all this stuff is fairly obvious. Start Steam VR is really how you should start it. This is way less annoying than the Oculus software, by the way. Because it's such a simple, small, I say simple. There's nothing simple about this fucking thing. But this part is. This part, you just click Start Steam VR. There you go. Help is just really nothing interesting. You know, there's your games. And why do you care about this? Why wouldn't I just launch them through Steam VR? Well, we're going to get to it. Settings. Version of the tool, HMD software version, which is going to be the wrong one. And you have to upload this corrected firmware from random users. Oh, what the fuck are they thinking? Nothing's really amazing here, but HMD is where things start to become weird. So yeah, tracking mode, 9-axis, if you're wondering, that is if you're not using tracking and you're just playing some seated racing game or whatever. That's not how we're going to be doing it. We're using lighthouses. Now here's our first bit of Chineseness. The light bar. Now it's got this like little chevron in the front. You've seen that. It's very cool. I kind of wish it would pulse back and forth like a Cylon. I was disappointed it can't do that. Maybe in an update in the future. Open and close? Huh? That's their version of on and off. What? Why? That's not what those words mean. So you have options here. Your panel mode, native, and upscaling. Upscaling is when it runs at a lower resolution and then just upscales it to 4K-ish. It doesn't look as good as native, obviously, but you can go to 110 hertz mode. That's pretty cool. 110 is nothing to shake a stick at. That's a notable improvement over 90 for certain games, sure. Personally, for the most part, though, I'll just take 90. But yeah, it goes all the way down to 60 if you really want. Backlight, I guess if you want to change that. IPD offsets per eye. So that's a pretty neat feature if you need it, if you just need to tweak it just a teensy amount. I haven't had to. It's perfectly good. Oh, same with up and down, you can do that. This didn't do anything. I don't know what it does. But that's pretty neat. Here we get into the magic though. Brain warp. Huh? What is brain warp? Brain warp? What are we talking about? And then your field of view. You can change that. So I guess the question is, what do these field of view values actually translate to? That's quite interesting. Quite a lot. Large, well, my vertical FOV was consistent at 101 degrees. Pretty good. Pretty good. That's basically the same as the index where I got 99. 2 degrees isn't significant. However, keep in mind, the Quest 2 got 83 for me. So that's a lot higher than that. So, good. Now when it comes to the field of view, so for large, for me, here, let me organize my notes a bit. Large meant a whopping 160 degrees. You thought 108 on the index is good? No, that sucks. 160 though, now we're cooking. That's large. Okay, how about normal? How's a normal FOV? That's 140. Oddly enough, these all ended up on like even numbers. Normal was 140. That's still massively better. And frankly, I'll just take the 160. But depending on you, and if you need the performance potentially, you can drop it down to 140 with normal. How about small? Take a guess. It's actually 120. That's still a significant improvement over the index, even on what they call small. And if you haven't picked up on the pattern by now, the hilariously named potato is an even 100. Actually, I got 101, but close enough. Really, 100, 101. So you lose 20, gain or lose 20 degrees roughly per setting. That's interesting. Now, 100 is lower than an index, but it's still 11 larger than the old Quest 2, which they call that potato. You see, we're on a whole different level than the Questants. I know I shouldn't be an ass. I know, especially I gave the Quest 2 wonderful review, right? It's glowing. I loved it. But this is an extremely high-end headset, and it shows. I mean, 160. Guys, you have no idea what that's like if you've never... like I'm telling you. If you go from the index to the Quest 2, you're like, wow, that's a nice boost to FOV. It really is. Then you put on something like this Pimax, it blows your mind what the FOV is like on it. It's really unpleasant to go back to the potato level headsets. Potato. Oh, that's crazy. So that's what all this means. So when it comes to games, unfortunately, Blade and Sorcery seems to have a bug in it right now. I've heard this affects Windows Media headsets as well. I'm getting white glitches on the edge of my peripheral vision, and that's regardless of the FOV settings, or whether I have the mask on, so I don't know what that is. But there are games that you may have to turn on parallel projection, which, let me tell you, you don't want to have to do unless you need to, because it murders your FPS. That's a 30 to 40% hit. Personally, I'd rather just do something else. But hey, you know what? If you can live at half FPS, you know, you can do it. Depending on the game, that might not be so bad actually, right? Especially like a flight sim maybe. So the fact that you have all these settings and tweaks you can do to to change things to get them just right. You know, that's really nice, because let's take like No Man's Sky. Well, I tell you what, I tried No Man's Sky in just sort of my default settings. Nope, nope, nope. There's No Man's Sky. Let's make a realistic one for you. You know what? We don't need this. Yeah. You know what? Potato. You know what? Just aggressive. Didn't need this though. Sure. And let's just be honest. Maybe it's not so bad. I tried No Man's Sky and I got a nice stable 12 FPS. That would require some tweaking for No Man's Sky, considering it actually ran pretty good on the index. I was like, wow, this is so fun and playable on my index. On this one, nope, you're gonna have to tweak it. Because again, you're driving two 4K displays. Now, No Man's Sky famously runs terrible in VR anyway. It actually runs great in desktop mode. But in VR, it's brutal. It's pretty weird. Render quality. What does this tooltip mean? Please adjust it properly. The high value will lead to be stuck on display? What does that mean? All I can tell you is that this is a quality adjustment for like upscaling and rendering and so forth. I have mine set to 75 because 3070, right? Fixed foveated rendering. You're all familiar by now probably with technologies like FSR and NIS. Like OpenFSR from AMD or NIS from NVIDIA, which is a new thing. It does exactly the same thing. And it would work like foveated eye tracking, except that it's in the middle. And that's just how much. Now again, close is off. That means off. And then aggressive is more, and then all the way down to conservative, which is least amount of foveated rendering. And you can turn this on and off and so on. Parallel projections. Okay, older games are just incompatible with that wide field of view, and you can use this if you have to make it go. You don't want to use this if there's any other option. This sucks. Don't use parallel projections unless you must. It costs a lot of FPS to do this. Yeah. Smart smoothing is just what you'd expect. You know, now it adds extra frames if you need them, right? That's what it is. We've seen this technology before. It's not a big deal. Generally turn it on. But what's compulsive smooth? What the fuck could compulsive smooth be? What? What weird language is this? Okay. What this is, and you know, I Googled this, I searched it, and I couldn't get an answer. The dev's like, oh, just try it out. Okay. So I tried it out, and this is basically, you know, when you're not hitting your FPS mark and it cuts your frame rate in half. This does that preemptively. So you're at 90, this will pin it to 45, but it pins it there. So I guess where you'd really want to use this is for games that just run like shit, or where it's like switching between, you're just sort of on an edge there. I don't like that, but it's an option if you need it. Hidden area mask is another weird thing that, I don't know, what can I tell you? Headsets don't render the parts of the screen you can't see, right? This disables that. So this is on automatically for every other VR headset. These guys give you the option to turn it off because the Pimaxes are niche. That sometimes you need to do weird things for compatibility, and this is an option in that vein. So if your game looks fine, just keep it on. If it doesn't, hey, you can try it. Don't worry about this. Here's weird. Why would I ever need to change the colors? Oh, you know what? Maybe if you're colorblind, actually, I suppose I should say, that's entirely possible. If you are colorblind, then maybe this actually is the headset for you, right? Maybe you should get a Pimax because you can, I don't know anything about that, but hey, it's an option. It's there. I'm just confused by it. Now here's the thing, your games list. Why would you care about this? Is this really useful? Well, yeah, because you can do per game settings. And this is really important for this headset because it's dual 4K displays. It's got this wacky FOV. It takes a hell of a lot to drive this fucking thing. You will have to tweak games. You will have to change things. You will have to fuck around for some games to get them to run their best. And this allows you to do that. So that's pretty neat. But it's neat, but it's necessary, right? You don't have to do this on your Quest 2 or your Index because they're not as crazy as this headset. You are not likely to have compatibility problems with those headsets. It actually can happen, but it's pretty rare. But for the Pimax, it is more common. Most of my games ran just fine, but there's exceptions to that. So you can see that this is not a headset for the faint of heart. All right, you have this amazing 4K crispness. You have it out of this world FOV, 160 degrees, guys, let me tell you. You're getting the sharpness and the FOV for this headset. You're getting pretty good audio. The microphone, I've heard some people say, is terrible. I would say that it's no worse than the Quest 2's. The problem is just that the Index's microphone is legendarily good. I found it okay. I found it actually a little better than the Quest 2's. I just found it kind of quiet. I tweaked that a little bit. It seems all right. But yeah, that's the thing with this device, is that you turn it on, you have to fuck around at the firmware for some reason. Why? What are they thinking? Right? You have to screw around with the facial foam. Then you have to fix your IPD, and then hopefully that's okay. Maybe you have to go into the software and tweak it a bit. Maybe not. Then you have to go and find out how to get your games running in dual 4K displays, which one 4K display these days is actually kind of a shit, right? You need a good system for that. Now you have to run 2 of them, and then you got to do it at a high FPS. 60's not going to do. It's a demanding headset, but it's an amazing headset. So, is this worth the hassle? Yeah, for me. For somebody who's okay with this kind of thing, if you just want to put on your headset and get gaming, no, but you're gonna. Once you get your settings dialed in, yes, actually, if you need to have a game that requires some special settings to get it to run well, or for compatibility, which doesn't seem to be a huge issue these days, but I know that there's some old games that require. I think DCS World is a huge thing for simmers, and they have to run with PPI, the parallel projections, and that's brutal for them. But they seem to like it because of the FOV. And there's still a myriad of ways, because just because we've tweaked the settings, we can still tweak it further down, right? You can always lower the resolution in Steam, because those are independent values of Pimax renders, and then what Steam custom resolution renders is completely different. And you can tweak those independently to get it to run where you need it. You're going to keep the FOV, probably, right? And another thing is that, what are you going to do? Go down to Quest or Index levels? Oh, poor baby. That's fine. This is, in my opinion, really is just the best headset on the market. But consequently, yeah, it's actually one of the most expensive too. So getting into something really weird like an Arrow, which I pan, its FOV is actually worse than the Quest 2's. You want that much money for that? And it doesn't even have speakers? Fuck off. Fuck off. That's a business headset, not a gaming headset. This is a gaming headset. This is the real deal. I can't say enough amazing things about the AKX, except for the fact that it's fussy. And sometimes it just behaves a bit oddly. That's another thing with it too. It just behaves oddly. A good example of this is that I'm testing the FOVs. I do the first one large, and then I set the headset down, go to my computer to narrow the FOV down, and then it just shut off. Just turned itself off. I had to go to Pitool and restart the HMD from there. It wasn't all the way off, it just didn't feel like doing any work. So I had to restart it randomly. Why? That's weird, right? What a weird thing. Like, you know, but that's kind of the shit that happens with this headset. It just acts weird sometimes, and then you have to restart it, and then you have to fuck around with this, and then why is it doing this? You know, if you're playing a really intense game, maybe you're just better off running an upscaling mode. And hey, maybe you're playing a game where you really want those extra 20 FPS. Some people, like I said, say I've heard people say Beat Saber really favors a high FPS. So maybe this is a perfect game where you'd run that in upscaling mode, get to 110, right? Or maybe some racing games. I don't really know. I don't play those kind of games. But you have options with this thing, and you can fuck around with these settings and tweak things to get that best possible gaming experience with the hardware you have. So even though I really do not have a system like a 3070, you really want like a 3080 Ti or a 3090 to take the best advantage of this system. And in fact, if I'm being totally honest with you, what you really want is like a 4090, which doesn't exist yet. Next year, I'll be buying a 4090, come to hell what may, because I'll tell you something. If we're going to be running dual 6K displays, there's just not going to be enough power in the world. The 4090 will be, it's all right on that shit. Of course, we are going to get foveated like eye tracking, but here's the thing. You can get an eye tracking module for this headset. What? Right, you can. You can actually get hand tracking module for this headset. I don't know what for, but you can get one. You can get eye tracked and theoretically have eye tracked foveated rendering with this headset, which would be great. I have no idea how well it works, and I kind of doubt that anyone actually does, because do you know any games that work with that? I don't. So the only time I've ever heard somebody testing the foveated rendering, which I think was Thrill Seeker who tested it with the Vive Eye Pro, and it just didn't work right with the like one game and one thing it found that worked with it, and it was a shitty experience. The software wasn't there yet. The tech's there, and the tech is already here in the AKX. It's just that I've heard some people say it didn't work well, but I guess my question is, how did you fucking test it and with what? Right? Because I don't think any eye tracked foveated rendering is working well now, because there's really nothing that uses it. So that's tricky. In the meantime, though, you have the fixed foveated rendering built right into Pitool. And that's fine, because let's be honest, even on aggressive, and I've tested this, it's actually not that bad. You sort of notice where it foveates, and it doesn't really do it all that smoothly, unfortunately. But that's kind of a fairly wide area in front of you, even with that. Like I would say that it actually lines up pretty well if you set it to aggressive to potato. And I suspect that those settings go in about 20-degree increments, roughly or so. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it worked, although I haven't really done any testing in that. You know, and if you're having fun with the Quest 2 and it foveates on the edges of it, you're still good. You still have it's at least as good as that, might even be more. So yeah, just so many options with this headset. But the thing is, I feel like you have to be a certain sort of person who's willing to do the time, effort, and work to get this thing set up. And then the fact that sometimes it just shuts itself the fuck off for some reason. Why? Why is it doing that? I don't know. It just does. You know? Like, it's just a weird device. It's fussy. It's finicky. There's settings. You have to often tweak things for older games. Newer games seem to work just fine, but right now Blade and Sorcery at the time of this video has an issue where I get sort of white artifacts on the edges of my view, in some areas anyway. It's kind of annoying, you know, so I don't think they've released a patch. They know what's wrong, but have they fixed it yet? Nah, I don't think so. So yeah, that's weird. And I couldn't get that to be fixed at all. I turned off, tried all sorts of options. The only fix for it was to put on the PPI rendering. And then the game ran like shit. So there are little issues you're going to have to put up with this headset. And that's kind of what I'm saying. I think this is the best gaming headset on the market, bar none. I think it has no serious competitors, really. Although I'm sure a lot of people think the Arrow is. I don't fucking think so. I think, what are you smoking? It's shitty narrow FOV. Seriously, it's got a Quest FOV. None of the flexibility. Yes, it's got probably better displays. They're the same resolution, but they probably are better. But these are so good as it is. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. Certainly not at that fucking price. No, no, no. I think the 8KX is the way to go for high-end VR. As long as you are a somewhat technical user who's okay with dealing with the kind of shit that you're going to have to deal with a headset like this. If you're not, hey, there's the Index. You'll love the Index. Hey, you'll love your Quest 2 as well. These are all magnificent headsets. And I'm pretty sure if I had the Reverb G2.1, I'd probably really like that too. There's just a lot of great headsets. Unfortunately, the only one people buy are the Quest 2 and the Index, right? This actually might be a sort of a thing. I know like Pimax is a Chinese company and they might be more popular in China. I don't know. But they're pretty amazing here. They're very much niche here. And, niche hardware means sometimes compatibility issues. There seems to always be some way to wiggle or zig or zag your way out of those issues with this though. So I don't think you'd ever really be overly tempted to pull out a different headset unless you wanted to do AirLink. For me though, I'm starting to feel like that FOV is so amazing. And with a thin light cable, like it's really nothing as terrible as the Index. It really isn't. The Index is such a shitty cable. I hate it. With the right tweaking, I think there's a lot of games I'll just put up with it in exchange for the FOV. I have to say, that FOV is something else, guys. It really is. 160? Like, that's what I'm running on, 160. I don't use the reduced ones because, to be fair, the distortion doesn't mean anything to me. I, but that's me, right? And that is another important thing I would say about these headsets. If that distortion is an issue for you, if you're that kind of person, then you would probably really fucking hate this headset. And a lot of people do. And a lot of people are obnoxiously vocal about hating it. Reddit in particular has a little cabal of people who have a bone to pick with Pimax. But this headset's awesome. Sorry, I don't know why they're so salty. I know that Pimax has struck out with a couple of their designs, their controllers. They're like, swords to controllers. We're not good, right? What can you say? They struck out on that. But that's not like a scam or nothing. They just struck out. And I guess they're going to try again with the 12KX. Or 12KX. 12K Reality. Which frankly is the headset I'm most excited for. I'm more excited for that than I am the Deckard. I don't think the Deckard's going to be as good as the 12K Reality. I think the 12K Reality has everything and more. When the 12K comes out, you'll have 60 hertz wireless, which is 8 gigs of bandwidth. That's quite a lot better than AirLink today. So, I'm still thinking, I still think the 12KX is going to be the one to get for next gen hardware. And people say, oh, if Pimax delivers. Well, they delivered on the 8KX. That's all I can tell you. This headset's fucking awesome. It's fucking awesome. This is definitely my daily driver headset. I love this headset. VR is so good. It's so amazing and immersive in this headset. I can't describe it. I love this headset. I love my other two headsets too. I just love this one more. It's just more equal than the others. But it is a wacky headset. And it does act odd and unpredictable at times. And unfortunately, it's not the kind of headset your buddy can come over and check out because he's probably going to get problems with the foam or the IPD as needs this. There's just a lot of things with this headset that you're going to make it your headset with the settings, So I guess that's where I'm going to end this review, is to say that I absolutely love the 8KX. I'm not 100% sure I recommend it for everybody though, right? And it's kind of hard to do that because if you're somebody who's very sensitive to that distortion, you're going to hate it. And I don't know how to give you a test to say, try this out, and if you like it, then you'll like this. Like, I don't think there's anything really like that, which makes it hard to recommend to people. I gambled on it myself, and I happened to get a perfect score. Is that the distortion meant nothing to me whatsoever. I don't even notice it when I'm playing games. It's gone. If I look for it, I see it, but that's it. Otherwise, I just get that huge field of view. And it's wonderful and it's perfect and it's awesome. 160. But I can't, like I said, I'm hesitant to recommend the AKX in a lot of ways just because, you know, it's picky. It's fussy. You have to fuck around with Pitool a lot. You have to have a really powerful computer. Mine barely cuts it. If you're anything less than what I have, 5600X Ryzen 5 or the 3070, if you're any less than that, I would say you probably are going to have a bit of a frustrating time with this. I occasionally have frustrating time with it as it is, and my machine's upper mid tier. You know, so there's that. There's a lot of things to take into account with this. Yeah, I really don't know how to recommend this or who to, except to say that highly technical users, I think, will have no problems with this headset. People who just want to play games, I think will find it frustrating. Or they'll adapt and love it. I do feel like if you've ever gotten used to that crazy high FOV, I think you'd have a shitty time going to another headset though. One more quick nitpick about the 8KX. When you shut off your index, or you exit SteamVR and index specifically, it will also shut down your peripherals. It'll put your base stations in power saving mode. I actually have no idea if the 8KX does that. I doubt it though. And it'll shut off your controllers. Personally, I have my base stations attached to a light switch, so I just flip them on and off as I need them. So it's not a huge concern for me, but for you, they might be sitting there humming and going at full speed. So you might want to check that. I really have no idea. And you have to sit there and manually shut off your controllers. Not the end of the world or anything, but it's a nuisance. You have to remember to shut them off, and if you forget, it'll just drain the battery. So yeah, it's a minor nitpick, but that's what this video is about. Okay. This is my favorite headset. I love it. I absolutely love this headset. Whether you like it or not, I'm afraid it's so subjective because of the distortion that it's hard to say. If you think that distortion is not going to bother you, then try it out. And hey, worst case, you'll get that money back when the 12K reality comes out. And then you can do something pretty cool because that headset apparently uses combination lenses that actually solves the distortion issue, which is a non-issue for me, but for other users it is. And that's going to have full body tracking and eye tracking and all sorts of insane stuff, and potentially is compatible with your existing base stations. Hey, that's pretty cool. So there you go. That's my Pimax 8KX review. I love it, but it's fussy, and maybe it's too fussy for you. Maybe not. All right. See you next time, guys. Thanks for coming. As always, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. My channel's new. It's tiny. No one's watching my videos. That hurts my feelings. Share it around for me. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.